Hello, I'm Maciej Mikos and you're watching World Talks. The US is reducing its contingent in Romania, one of the crucial countries on NATO's eastern flank. Some 700 soldiers are to return to Kentucky as Russia continues to put more hybrid pressure on Europe. And to talk about it, we're joined by Lieutenant Colonel Krzysztof Płatek, former spokesperson for Eurocorps. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So, did the Pentagon decision to send some of the American troops back home surprise you?
No, we shouldn't be surprised at all, because the changes of security policy in the United States were announced in February this year. And the United States announced that they are reorientation their efforts to the Pacific. So it's not a surprise, and also we have to remember that Pentagon and Department of Defense realizes the longer policy and realizes the aerial plans. So we should expect that it will happen, but for now it's not even a big step. So
it's not a big step, you say. 700 soldiers out of 1,700, that's almost half of them.
Of course, but we have to remember that we still have more than 30,000 soldiers in Germany, 13,000 in Italy, and 10,000 in Poland. So when we compare 700 to these dozens of thousands, so it's not a really big number.
Yes, and yet we're talking about Romania. We're not talking about Germany, but we're talking basically about a front country, right? Romania borders Ukraine, borders Moldova, where Russians also have their troops, and it has a shore of the Black Sea. So it is, I guess, a very important spot on NATO's eastern flank.
Maybe from the tactical point of view, it seems a bit incomprehensible, but from the strategic point of view, it's just an effect of the implementing of this security policy in the US. And when we look at the bigger picture, so we still have a lot of the American forces in Europe. America maintains a foothold here still. The United States is still the core of the NATO. We have to remember that, for instance, always we have two divisions in NATO. A political division, which is represented by the General Secretary, and it was always a European politician. And the military arm of the NATO was always commanded by the American general. And we still have US Army Europe forces, and the commander of US Army Europe forces is still a supreme commander of the NATO forces. So they are still here, and we still don't hear anything about implementation of changes in the NATO structure. So we can rest assured.
I see. Well, you say that the decision has not surprised you, but it seems that it has surprised Roger Wicker, chair of the Senate Armed Services Committee, and Mike Rogers, chair of the House Armed Services Committee, so two top American politicians who take care of these affairs. Let me quote this statement. This decision sends the wrong signal to Russia at the very moment President Trump is applying pressure to force Vladimir Putin to come to the table to achieve a lasting peace in Ukraine. The president has it exactly right. Now is the time for America to demonstrate our resolve against Russian aggression. Unfortunately, the Pentagon's decision appears uncoordinated and directly at odds with the president's strategy. Now, could the Pentagon really act on its own without notifying the president about this decision?
I won't think so. I think that they are as I said earlier, they are implementing longer plans. So still some politicians in parliament can have different opinion on some activities of the Pentagon, Department of Defense, and also the President. So, of course, maybe the time is not so proper because we are still in the hot period of war in the Ukraine. So maybe the Pentagon and even the President of the United States should wait a moment. But we don't know everything about what's going on in the kitchen in the American deep state, we can call this, yes. So what the planners, what people who create the policy, what they prepared in the long term.
I see. Do you think that Donald Trump will deliver on his promise not to withdraw a single US soldier from Poland?
In current situation, we can suppose that there will be no changes in American engagement in Poland. So the number of American soldiers on the Polish soil shouldn't change. But we cannot foresee the future, what will happen in 5 years, for instance. What will be the geopolitical situation all over the world? Maybe the United States, the tensions between the United States and the People's Republic of China will increase. So they will have to prepare to maybe even for the kinetic conflict. Yes. So we cannot predict the future. But for the current moment, we shouldn't expect that the number of American soldiers is going to change, will change in Poland.
That's about Poland. What about the Baltic countries? Because we've been also hearing that there is such a possibility.
In the Baltic countries, we have unchanged EFP forward presence of NATO, yes, and the United States is the leading country in Poland. They have the component in Giżycko in this region, and the responsibility for Baltic countries remains in the hands of the other countries of NATO. Mainly, of course, we should still keep the American presence also there, but Americans were saying, and they are still saying this, that European nations, you should take the responsibility for your own defense in your hands. So we should expect that the European NATO countries will increase their efforts in providing the security in Baltic countries,
yes,
also in Poland.
But Europeans remember history, and they know perfectly well that America enters a war once its soldiers or citizens are attacked. So that's the main reason for keeping the US troops on your soil.
Of course, we can we can think like this, that we can keep American soldiers as hostages. Paraphrasing this, of course. And also, maybe I will recall the words of Lord Ismay, the first General Secretary of NATO, that we should keep Russians out, Americans in, and Germans down. We shouldn't treat it so directly about the Germans, maybe.
Definitely. Now, lastly, I'd like to ask you about the Russian hybrid pressure on Europe. We observe almost every day now that there was this situation with a Russian aircraft being intercepted by Polish fighter jets. Now, should we expect more such incidents to happen in winter?
I don't think so. Currently, I don't know the numbers of the Russians' interference and their incursions in the airspace of NATO. It's hard to compare how many incidents we have this year and how many we had in the past years. But in my opinion, it's nothing new. When we hear about the scramble mission of the NATO fighter jets, it's nothing new. The global powers were playing the game of chicken since the 1954, the creation of NATO. So it's nothing new.
It's nothing new, and yet the doomsday clock is ticking. It seems that we're so close to the total annihilation that it's really hard to talk about it. Lieutenant Colonel Krzysztof Płatek, former spokesperson for Eurocorps, was our guest this afternoon. Thank you very much, Colonel.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for watching. Stay with us for more fantastic interviews here on TVP World.